and they do have those 3 first-round picks, and now it's becoming more evident they're going to take a wide receiver again in the first round of the draft. But the whole point of this, Jody, was to get a veteran receiver. A veteran receiver.
It's 365. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McConnell. We appreciate you logging in, streaming in with us on this Monday. As we do a little countdown, JM, today is show number 245, day 160. That's how many days till the opening day, but an even shorter countdown, day 24 to the NFL draft, which we'll be talking about plenty this week, next week, right up until the Eagles are scheduled to have 3 first-round picks. Will they have 3 first-round picks by the time we get to day 0 and the NFL draft has arrived? That's plenty of what you're going to get coverage on the next couple of weeks here on Birds 365. How was your weekend, Johnny Mac?
Too much wrestling. That's why we're late to get on the air. So now it's a big day for me, Jody, because I can finally put that in the rearview mirror and I can focus on the draft. But yeah, it was all WrestleMania. Let's be honest.
You got to get through WrestleMania weekend before you start to pay attention to the draft. No, I've been listening to you last 7 weeks. You got a pretty good grasp of the draft, but you'll hunker down even more, as will I. And yes, this weekend was spent basically watching and thinking about and talking about about 5 or 6 or 7 other sports other than football. Now, it coincided nice that nothing really happened in the National Football League over the weekend. Maybe they all were watching WrestleMania as well. Who knows? But I watch horse racing, I watch golf, I watch wrestling, certainly baseball. The season is upon us. The NCAA tournament. Sorry, Villanova, they didn't have a chance without Justin Moore. I love him, rooting for him, wanted to see him win. I thought Kansas minus 4.5 was a stone cold steal, but that's a whole nother point. So yes, we delved into a lot of other sports this weekend, but here on Birds 365, we got to bring it back to football. As I said, not a very busy week in the weekend in the National Football League, except for one move. And yeah, I'm going to chastise the Eagles for this one because it's not 2020 hindsight. I said right here on Bird 365 last week when Tyreek Hill ended up in Miami with the Dolphins, you knew full well Devante Parker was going to become available. Solid veteran wide receiver who's had a nice career, still has a certain talent level that I absolutely believed could help the Philadelphia Eagles. It was pretty obvious the Dolphins were going to try and move him because he was a little bit of reproduction on the outside. They don't need the wide receiver position is covered when you add Tyreek Hill the way they did. And he was traded this weekend in division to the New England Patriots. I said, damn, they must have overpaid to be able to get him, because if I'm the Dolphins, I want to ship him out of the division, out of the league if I can, so he doesn't come back to bite me in the you-know-where. Ends up going with a 5th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick. So Devante Parker was only acquired for a 2-round move-up in the NFL. You don't even get an extra pick. You just get one 2 rounds earlier. That seems like a minimal price to me. And if I've got the right read on it, that it would have behooved the Dolphins to trade him to a team out of the league, how do the Eagles not make a deal like that? How do they not at least equal that trade from the Patriots, if not top it?
Yeah, I'm writing about this morning. It'll be up on Philly Voice a little bit. I actually thought, real quick, Jody, you were going to get into the off-season workout program, but we'll get into that because I know that's going to fire you up. But Devante Parker, here's how I describe it. In a vacuum, I don't blame the Eagles at all. It's a 26-year-old guy. 3rd-round pick in 2023, which, by the way, in the NFL's eyes, that means 4th-round pick this year for what it's worth. I mean, they think future picks are worth less than immediate picks. So it's sort of like a 4th-round pick in their eyes, whether you believe that makes sense. That's how the NFL looks at these things. In other words, it's a 2023 pick, not a 2022 pick. So it's not as valued as a 2022 3rd-round pick. So you have that part of it. He's a little bit expensive for, a little bit over $5 million. He's got 2 years left on his deal. So, if you put this just in one little nicely shrink rack package, I would say, nah, I don't need that. I don't want that. Um, but when you encompass it into the whole off season, and look, the Eagles can say whatever they want to say. And they do have those 3 first-round picks. And now it's becoming more evident they're going to take a wide receiver again in the first round of the draft. But the whole point of this, Jody, was to get a veteran receiver to help Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins. Now you're going to have Devonta Smith mentoring another young rookie. What are the odds that whomever you might like, insert name, I don't care who it is. What are the odds that that receiver is as advanced coming into Philadelphia as Devonta Smith? Pretty stinking small, because I don't think there's anybody in the draft.
Devante Parker. You mixed up your Devontaes there.
Devonta Smith is now has to put on his mentoring hat. And thank you for correcting me. I hope I made my point clear, even though I screwed up my name. So yes, now you don't have that mentoring voice. Well, the Eagles are going to, we have Zach Pascal. Stop with Zach Pascal. Stop. I don't want to hear that name again. So when I look at this in a complete sort of circle, and we go back to Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk and Allen Robinson and Robert Woods and Devante Parker, I get a very Sam Hinkie tint with this team in one aspect, Jody, not about tanking, one aspect. Sam Hinkie was obsessed with winning every personnel move. And by winning every personnel move, I don't mean getting the evaluation of the player right. And we talked a lot about this last week, evaluation versus valuation. The Eagles are too obsessed with winning in the eyes of the framework of this advanced notion that this is worth this has this value, this has that value. I happen to turn on the 40-year-old version with Steve Carell. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Great comedy.
I haven't seen it in 15 years, but I did see it when it first came out.
It happened to be on cable, and obviously they're not talking about wide receivers. But there's one line in this movie, and I laughed out loud because I was mulling the Eagles. And, they tell Andy, you gotta try some wrong, dog. What has been right for you for years isn't working. You got to try some wrong. So do the Eagles need to maybe overspend, maybe go outside of their comfortable box, maybe not win a trade to get a stinking veteran receiver? Maybe they got to overpay a little bit because of the style of offense. That's outside the vacuum. That's real world. Yes. How could you properly evaluate Jalen Hurts? People kill me all the time that say I'm not fair to Jalen Hurts. I'm fair to Jalen Hurts. They're not being fair to Jalen Hurts. They're the ones that have to evaluate. You think they're going to go next year and say, yeah, we're going to pay this kid $30 million? He's got no chance unless they get him some stinking veteran receivers who understand and know how to play the game. One entity is not being fair to Jalen Hurts, and that's your beloved Eagles.
I know you just said you don't want to hear his name or mention his name anymore, but I
like Zach. I mean that in a football sense.
Right. I get it, and I'm going to do it. And if I need to apologize after the fact, I will. Let me hammer home the point that you just made about, and it's not us giving you our opinion. This is us just playing by what's been stated by both Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. They need to give Jalen Hurts more weapons. They need to give Jalen Hurts more on the offensive side to give him a real legitimate chance to succeed this year so they can continue to evaluate the progress that Jalen Hurts has made in his career. How many offensive linemen have the Eagles added this offseason? Free agency. Zero. Okay. How many running backs have the Eagles added this offseason to upgrade the up? Zero. How many tight ends have the Eagles added to the vaunted offense this offseason to upgrade Jalen Hurts' chance?
Zero.
How many wide receivers have they added to make it easier on Jalen Hurts this upcoming season?
One.
And his name is Zach Pascal, who John McMullen doesn't want to reference or talk about anymore. Nor do I, by the way. Thank you very much. So in the off season, and yes, Howie did hammer this home at the owners meeting last week. The off season didn't end when they showed up down in Florida. There's still a lot of time left. We haven't even had the draft, and that's a key part of it. We're not trying to minimize the impact the draft can have, but rookies are rookies, and they do need time to be able to get into the NFL and learn how to succeed there and the like. Free agency is what it is. Trades. There's been so many trades in the National Football League, including this one that both you and I are bemoaning this past weekend of Devante Parker. Maybe as busy a trading offseason as we've seen in years in the National Football League. The whole mantra of the offseason, we need to give Jalen. We believe in Jalen Hurts. We have faith in Jalen Hurts. We're not looking to draft a quarterback. Yes, we may have inquired on Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, but we came out of that mix pretty darn quickly because they didn't really want to come here to Philadelphia. So we doubled down on our commitment to Jalen Hurts, and you've shown that by acquiring Zach Pascal. That's it. And they've done nothing else.
And look, Jody, I'm going to be fair here as well and say, there's talk in Tennessee now, the rumors that they want to move A.J. Brown because they don't want to pay him. There's always the talk about DK Metcalf. If the Eagles do the 180 here and trade for one of those players, then I'll come on and say, hey, well done. Well done. You got it done. You stayed the course. You're right. The offseason isn't over. But I got to tell you, Jody, I don't believe this team is going to give a receiver $20+ million, and I'm not going to believe it until I see it. I mean, that's just where I am with that. And those guys, you could say all you want about, well, trade for them and figure it out. They're going to be tremendously unhappy if they don't get a new contract on top of the trade. And it's just not going to happen. That's not what the modern NFL is. We see it. We see what it is. And there's more power to the players, whether you want to call it player empowerment or whatever, more power to the agents. They're going to use every lever, every vehicle possible to get that extension. And if they don't get that extension, they're probably going to be a pain in the you-know-what if you force them to go in the locker room. So you don't want that from a franchise perspective. But just in general, and what I was talking about, at some point, the Eagles are going to have to pay a wide receiver $20+ million because that's the way the league is going. Just as I said with quarterbacks, and $30 million being the new sort of demarcation line. At some point, they're going to have to do it. Until I see it, though, all I see is Sam Hinkie trying to win trades and trying to impress people on social media. Oh, did you see the bat? Oh, he got this. Gardner Minshew, we talk about it all the time. Can he get a 3rd-round pick for Gardner Minshew? Oh, can he win the trade? He gave up a 6th-round pick. Who gives a bleep? Give me a Les Snead shirt. I don't care if you win the trade. Get good football players. And I get it. If you do that too much, you're going to turn into a bad team. Believe me, I get it. But that's where I bring up the movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Sometimes you got to try some wrong. Sometimes you got to go out of the box. You can't be this disciplined all the time. If you're this disciplined all the time, you're going to end up with Zach Pascal as your top offseason receiving addition for Jalen Hurts. And that's not fair to Jalen Hurts.
That's why this weekend annoyed me. And the one football move that came down this weekend, and certainly in my mind related to the Eagles, because we talked about it last week, not we're going back going, oh my, shouldn't have the Eagles. No, you and I kicked it back and forth all week last week. Devante Parker, should they make a play for him? The reason why I thought it wasn't going to happen here was because, as you just stated, the Eagles like to win the trade. Oh, the Patriots won the trade. If the Eagles,
I don't think they did in a lot of people's minds.
No, they absolutely did.
And a lot,
Absolutely.
but in a lot of people's minds that the Eagles value, they didn't win it. That's what I'm trying to say. You know who I'm talking about, right, Jody? I'm
See, now
just
we're
talking
back.
about this.
We're back to this conversation we had last week. What's more important, the way a move is analyzed, perception thereof at the minute it's done, or a year, 2 years, 3 years later, and you look back at the results and you go, okay, now I can definitively state who won the trade, not who most people thought won the trade at that time. I'm going to tell you right now, and this is where you and I disagreed, the evaluation after the fact is much more important than the valuation at the time. The evaluation 2 or 3 years down the road, Devante Parker as a Patriot, he's going to make catches, he's going to do things for him. They're going to take their 3rd-round pick, which they had to give up an additional 5th-round pick in 2023. We'll got to wait 8 years to find out what kind of player that is. Whenever we reach the end of the deal, the Patriots will have gotten the better of the deal.
That's fine, but you do. I mean, I understand what Jody McDonald thinks. I'm trying to get you to understand what I think the Eagles think. I think the Eagles think they're trying to impress the people that took my side of the argument last week. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. That's what is important to them, and in my opinion, too important to them. And in my opinion, that's where they get into this too disciplined. Well, we can't give up this because this valuation is this. You do see it. I mean, you went through the whole Sam Hinkie era. You do see this growing wave in professional sports where you can't do this, you can't do that, or the mob goes up and says, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're terrible at your job." And it becomes difficult. The Eagles are too concerned about that. That's my belief. That's my belief.
I understand. I'm just surprised you're as motivated by it today because you took the stance that you did last week. That your anti-perception is important, guy. Today,
no, because
I was that last week, and I still believe that this week.
Yeah, but the difference between you and you're in the vacuum. I'm out of the vacuum. That's why I'm unhappy with it. In the vacuum, just this one move, I said at the beginning of the show, I agree with the Eagles. This one move, I wouldn't have given up what New England gave up for Devante Parker. I don't think the player's worth it. But taken as a whole, after you missed out on Ridley, after you couldn't get Kirk, you got outbid. After the Rams beat Sean Allen Robinson, after Robert Woods didn't want to come here. That's what I'm adding into it. After all of that, I got to do something. I got to do something to help Jalen Hurts more than Zach Pascal.
All right.
That's the context.
Let me just pull you into the vacuum for a minute, John. And Barrett Brooks is going to join us coming up in just a couple of minutes here. If you were Howie Roseman, you're Howie, and the call comes to you on Saturday, and it's the Dolphins, and they go, listen, here's what we need. We've got this on the table. We prefer to trade him to you. Here's what New England's offered. We need that from you. You match the offer. He's yours. You would have said no?
In the vacuum. I'm not in the vacuum. In the vacuum, I would have said no. In the vacuum. Because it's not worth it the way the NFL values these players. It's not worth it.
Then I think both you and Howie Roseman were wrong. It was worth it. It would have upgraded the Eagles.
But you were asking me why I changed. I didn't change. I'm just taking the whole context into it. In the vacuum, Howie's right. Outside of the vacuum, you got to do some wrong. You got to do some wrong occasionally to get a better player at an important position for your quarterback. That's where I am.
I think the player is going to help the New England Patriots next year, and I think he could help the Philadelphia Eagles immediately next year, and I don't think the price was all that big. So in or out of the vacuum, the fact that Devante Parker is not an Eagle is wrong in my opinion. All right, coming back, we punch up our first guest. It's our buddy, Big Barrett Brooks, going to join us to certainly talk Eagles football, but then talk about a new show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. So stay here with Birds 365.